I am so excited to share with you some information, and I wanted to talk with you about leading successful change, because it's difficult, isn't it, to lead change? And that's what all of us as project management professionals are doing. And I think a lot about Billie Jean King. Billie Jean King, on September 20th of 1973, made a massive change in the world. She's kind of an awesome tennis player, as you know. She's won 39 Grand Slam titles. She's #1 player in the world. But in 1973, she played the Battle of the Sexes with Bobby Riggs, who was a champion tennis player, and she beat him. And at that point, she changed the perception of women in sports forever. So Billie Jean King, I find really interesting and somewhat inspiring, because she said, I'm going to be the best, so I can really change things. And when I think about all of us as project professionals, we need to be our best so we can really change things as well. I belong to the Association of Change Management Professionals, and we have a standard for change management. So it's similar to the PMBOK, but it's about 160 pages smaller, which I know is a relief to all of you. So we have the standard for change management, and we define change as the transition that people go through, organizations, moving the objective of moving organizations and their stakeholders through a transition from a current state to a future state. Now this is really interesting, right? Because sometimes we find it hard to define change. Someone says, well, this is a small change. Are you moving somebody from the current state to a future state? Then it's a change. So this is that definition. You're free to go and download that standard also. It's at acmpglobal.org. This is what we call our change curve. And this is an important document because this really shows, you can see here that we have our current state, our change is implemented, and then we have this dip without change management. That dip is when people discover that they no longer can do things the way they used to do them, right? Skip talked about imposed change, self-elected change that imposes on others. I think this is a really interesting dip, because you can see how deep that line goes. And we call that bottom point right over here, we call that the valley of despair. Because that's the point where you are too far into the change to turn around and go back, but you're so far from the future state, you don't know how you're ever going to get there, right? And this happens all the time on projects. Sometimes the project team falls into the valley of despair, but many times, in many changes, our end users, our stakeholders, are in the valley of despair. So when we use an organizational change management approach, we see that the dip is not as deep. We see that people reach the future state much more quickly. And that future state is where the benefit of the change is realized. There is a benefit to the change. When we can clearly describe the benefit of the change, it's so much easier, because then people understand, here, we made it to this benefit of the change. It's worth it. I think that's the first place to start on being successful in leading successful change. So I gave you a success strategy: clear description and compelling story of change. I was so happy this morning to hear Skip talking about storytelling and the importance of that. And then I stopped in Barbara Bolt's session for a few minutes, and she was talking about storytelling. And I thought, oh, this is great, because we need to make sure that we have a compelling story of change. We need to explain it in a way people can understand it. So about 20 years ago, I had my first large organizational change management project. It was for a Big Ten university, about 100 miles from here, in that radius. And we were doing a huge ERP implementation, first of its kind there. And we were trying hard to build this change champion network. It was critical to our success as a project to have this change champion network. And the reason that it was so critical for us is that we had 23 schools and colleges who each had their own separate database to do everything in. And you had to go in and out of everyone's database all day long to get the information you needed for your job. So people were logging in and logging out. Somebody from the law school needed to look at, somebody's undergrad record in the College of Arts and Sciences, and so they were trying to log into their system to see things. It was really a nightmare. But everybody was used to it, and they thought, this works great. This is totally fine for us. So they were all in these 23 schools and colleges, all used to going in and out all the time, no problem. I had a really smart, amazing boss, very technical. And we would have meetings with this group, trying to get them on board, trying to get them to embrace this change and go talk about it with their departments and units. And whenever my boss would meet with them, she would put up this slide. Now you know what this is, right? Isn't this the beautiful database slide? Yes. Oh, we all love this, don't we? We're like, yes, that's one of my family pictures. She loved this slide, and she would put this slide up and she would say, we are implementing a relational database. This is very important to you. And they would all be like, oh, this is not very important to anyone. And we couldn't get anybody on board or involved. We're like, geez, what are we going to do? Well, at the time, I had two little daughters, Violet May and Emma Rose. They were 2 and 4 years old at the time. And so I was a working mom, and I had to do all my errands on Saturdays. So I would get home and, get up on Saturdays to go do my errands. And we had to go to the grocery, hardware store, the pharmacy, the bank. Sometimes we needed to get shoes. Sometimes we needed toys. And we would have to get in and out of the car seat for every single stop. So I don't know, have any of you had small children or currently have small children or know of small children? Were you once small children? When I was a small child, we didn't have car seats, right? They just kind of put you in the back seat and say, good luck. But I had these car seats and these two little girls. And so when I wanted to go anywhere, it was ridiculous. I had to go snap, snap, click. We'd get there, I'd go click, snap, snap, click. Snap, snap, click, click, snap, 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 click, click, snap, snap. So I went to the grocery store, snap, snap, click, click, snap, snap. Hardware store, snap, snap, click, click, snap, snap. The pharmacy, snap, snap, click, click, snap, snap. Times two, one on each side, right? They have to be away from each other, because if you let them touch each other, it's like a hockey game, right? I know Sean enjoys that one. So I was just so tired of this. I got home one day, I had gone 6 places, snap, snap, click, click, snap, 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 click, click, snap, snap. Finally, the next weekend, I went to Meyer Thrifty Acres. You know Meyer? Meyer's awesome, right? I did snap, snap, click, got to Meyer, click, snap, snap, got in the cart, went in the store. I wanted to sing. I wanted to sing like Ariel. Remember Ariel? She does this big singing, but I'm not Celine Dion, so I couldn't sing like Ariel. But I can sing like Barney. And I said, grocery, hardware, pharmacy, bank, pharmacy, bank. Grocery, hardware, pharmacy, bank, pharmacy, bank. Shoes and cards and toys and clothes. Grocery, hardware, pharmacy, bank, pharmacy, bank. Woo! I loved it. I was so happy. And I got out of Meijer and I snap, snap, click, and we were done. We had gone to everything. They even had a hair salon at Meijer. Did you know that? You could do anything there. Oh, and bedding just goes on. So I went to work on Monday and I said to my boss, hey, you know, I really think that if we explained to all of our Change Champion Network people that we are trying to help them reduce the number of times they have to go in and out of systems, and it's sort of like Meijer, you know, where you go in one place and you can get everything and then you check out. Do you think that you could say that to them? She's like, what? Well, that's cute. But this is a multi-million-dollar project. And I'm not telling anybody it's like Meijer. So again, she puts up her slide of the databases. And she says the next day to these Change Champion Networks, and she says, hey everyone, we're doing this relational database. It's super important for you. You have to pay attention. And they all start to get up and leave. And she looks at them and she says, how many of you heard of Meijer? April is going to tell you about Meijer. And we had a network because we explained what they were going to gain. And when we explained it in a clear way, giving them an example that they could all relate to. By the way, if there's anybody here who doesn't have kids, just imagine that if every time you wanted to use your iPhone, you had to put in a passcode, do your Face ID, and then multi-factor authentication. That's equivalent to the snap, snap, click, just in case you didn't know. So our Change Champion Network was formed, and it was the backbone of the success of that project. That network is still in place 2 decades after that project ended. So it was an amazing breakthrough for us that we could understand, like when we explained a change, when we explained it in a clear way with an example that people could relate to, then they could understand it. I thought Skip this morning was talking very much about some jargon that we use, and I think as project management professionals, we are so guilty of jargon, aren't we? We talk about milestones, we talk about ROM. Oh, ROM. How many people love saying ROM in a meeting? Well, we need a ROM for that because I don't know, that's a scope change, right? We use a lot of jargon among ourselves, but what we don't realize is that we're blocking our business owners, our stakeholders, and our end users from understanding what we're talking about. I mean, really, did anybody know what a venti was before Starbucks? I never used that word before. I said, wow, a venti, what? I tried to order a large and they laughed at me. You want a large? Well, what of these complicated names do you want? Just coffee. So recognizing that our jargon sometimes will separate us from our end users is a really important piece, I feel, also, in making sure that we're clear and we're telling a compelling story of change. The second success strategy, I think, is truly and deeply understanding our stakeholders, or as I like to call them, our partakeholders, because they are partaking in this change. They are not some formless, faceless blob called a stakeholder. This is actually somebody who will partake in this change, and I think, I know for myself, I have discovered recently, sort of almost accidentally, discovered a way to actually get much deeper with understanding the stakeholders. And so I'd like to share this with you a little bit. I'm going to give you an example of how this, how I teach this with project teams, because I want them to truly understand how they can identify and understand and have empathy, as Skip had said, have empathy with our stakeholders. So to explain this, I'm going to tell you a story about 2 schools. Well, the story actually starts with 6 schools in a school district. And these 6 schools are all neighborhood schools, which means that the families in the neighborhoods can walk to the school, most likely. Sometimes they're a little bit further away. But the goal is to have a walkable school, and people from your neighborhood are all going to the same school. These 6 schools were kindergarten through 6th grade. So the problem was, though, there was declining enrollment, and so the school district decided what they were going to have to do is they were going to reconfigure the schools so that they would eliminate split grades. You know, where you have like a 2nd grade and 3rd grade classroom together because you only have 10 2nd graders and 10 3rd graders. You put them both in a classroom, and some are ahead and some are behind. It's very difficult for both the students and the teachers. So they made this decision, and then they announced that 4 schools were going to be kindergarten through 4th grade, and 2 schools were going to be 5th and 6th grade. Now, all the schools said, we want to be the kindergarten through 4th grade school, right? Because you want your little kids close to home, you want to let them be able to walk to school, you don't want them on a big bad bus riding to school. You know, let those 5th and 6th graders, they're kind of old. We're tired of them anyway. They can ride the bus, you know? So everybody wants the K-4 school in their neighborhood. So we come down to these 2 schools, which are bordering a neighborhood together. They share. And they kind of start to compete about who's going to be the K-4, who's going to be the 5-6. And the message comes out. So school A, and I'll use parents, Aaron and Stacy, so you can keep track of which school is which. School A, Aaron and Stacy are the parents at school A, and their school is told they are K through 4. Oh, yes, we won, right? They're so excited. Then we have school B, which is Brenda and Jenna, and they are told 5-6, and they think, oh, we have a 2nd grader. This is terrible. So they are now in kind of 2 different worlds, right? School A, where Aaron and, now I forgot her name, Stacy, Aaron and Stacy they're excited, right? We're K-4, we're K-4. And the other school starts to be really upset. And they have to figure out now what to do. Now, sometimes after the riots at the school board meeting, then they finally start to accept what's happening to them. So what I'd like you to do real quickly, I'm actually going to only give you a minute. I want you to look around, gather 5 people. I know if you have 3 at a table, pick up 2 more people somewhere. Get 5 people together, and I want you to assign letters. Someone has to be A, B, C, D, and E, okay? You have 1 minute. Actually, you have 30 seconds. You have 10 seconds. 10 seconds. You too, or if you're like my trainer at the gym, you have 10 seconds and 2 minutes, it'll be over. Okay, can you hear that? Great. All right, who is A? Who is B? Who is C? Who is D? And who is E? Oh, you guys are so smart. I love it. Awesome. So what I'm going to have you do is now, this is the time when you get to practice acting. This is your acting moment, right? Can everybody be an actor for just a minute? Just be a dramatic actor for a minute. Because you are going to get a role. Whoever is A, raise your hands, A. Okay, all of you A's, you are 3rd grade teachers at school B. Okay, all of you B's, you are parents of 1st and 5th graders in school A. C, you guys, you have it easy. You're the bus driver. Where's my C's? Woohoo! Yeah! C's are it. I get to drive the bus. I don't have to worry about it. D's are parents of second grade students in school B. And E is the neighbors in school B. Fun, right? Okay, you got your roles? Everybody got your acting chops going? Are you ready? Now what we're going to do is I'm going to give you, I'm super friendly with time. I'm going to give you 5 minutes total, so this is pretty tight. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and each of you has to tell your table the answer to these 3 questions. What will you gain from this change? What will you lose from this change? And what do you fear with this change? All right? So go ahead and tell your other stakeholders, partakeholders, what you think. To finish your conversations. Make sure you've answered all 3. to talk with each other about the answers to these questions. So I have Sean and Jerry have microphones, and I need somebody from an A group to stand up so that you can tell one of those two. They're going to run to you with a microphone and tell us what it is you felt that you would gain or lose, or and also to gain, lose, and fear from this change. So who's up for our person A? All right.
Well, one of the things that might happen, and I'm hoping for this, is that I'm a third grade teacher, but right now I'm teaching second and third grade, and it's a real pain, and I'm looking forward to possibly having a class of third graders again. But my fear is what I might lose, and that's my job, because they're not going to need as many teachers with this consolidation, and I just don't know if I'm going to have a job next year.
Wow, excellent. So I think you deserve an Oscar. We have a prize for you. You know this. What do we have as a prize, Sean?
It's a gift card to Myers.
Yes. A gift card for Myers. Who is person B who would like to explain how you feel about this change? Oh, somebody back here. Way in the back. Yeah, come on, Phil Donahue, get going.
Hi. As a parent, one of the things I will gain is I know my kids going to now 2 different schools, they're going to learn different coping skills and different friends, to be a little more independent. What I'll lose is the fact that I can no longer go to one school and pick up my 2 kids. So, and then the fear is the fact that because I've got 2 kids now standing outside to be picked up, one of them could wander off and I could spend a lot more time picking one up versus the other one, so that unknown.
Excellent, very nice. You too get a Meyer gift card. Excellent. All right, how about person C, a bus driver? A bus driver over here is Drew. Tell us, bus driver, what will you gain?
Well, I'm thinking I might gain an extra route because, you know, depending on the schools and when they start and everything, I might gain an extra route. One of the things I'm afraid of losing is my job, because if they're trying to cut costs with this consolidation and everything, maybe they go private with their busing and I'm no longer an employee of the school system. Lose my benefits.
Oh, yeah, that's a fear, isn't it? So excellent, bus driver. Good acting. I appreciate it. Meyer gift card for you. How about a D, a parent D, parent of a second grader at school B? Oh, way over here. Way. She jumped up and raised her hand. She's an enthusiastic parent. Tell us, it was, okay, we'll get you for, I'm sorry. We'll do 2. How about we do 2? We'll do 2 Ds. Okay, 2 Ds. Go ahead, D.
Because I have a hard time finding anything that I'm going to gain from this change. My child was in my neighborhood, he could walk. What I'm going to lose is time and worry about learning the new school route, the time I waste that I could be at work. And what I fear is that I don't know the new school, I don't know the administration, I don't know the teachers, I don't know the curriculum, and there's just a whole bunch of unknowns that I fear.
All right, good acting. Excellent, that's a D parent. We have another D parent way over at the end here. Go ahead, D parent, what are you gaining, losing, and fearing?
Second grade student, he have to go to the school A. So my fear is my kid might be having the changes, he will get a new friends and new surroundings. Maybe it's a good change for him. But my fear is maybe we don't mix with the kids, or because he's only second grade student. So the bonding with the teachers, maybe we lose. And fear is hope we don't go into the show, not talking anything, and that's what I thought.
You can get a phrase that. All right, excellent, thank you. Okay, now, last but not least, our neighbors. I bet there's somebody on this side of the room that has a, there we go, we have a neighbor over here.
Okay, I'm in the new B school, which has got fifth graders and sixth graders who are going to drop a lot of stuff when they're walking around. It'll probably be a lot messier than those cute, sweet little kindergartners who didn't really cause a whole lot of problem, but now we've got a bunch of hormonal fifth and sixth graders wandering around my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I probably have more buses coming through my neighborhood and more cars being dropping off kids. It's going to block my driveway, park in my driveway, turn around in my driveway, run over my dog. I'm not really seeing a bonus.
So I think all of your fears have probably come true. So excellent acting, neighbor. You obviously have been a neighbor in the past. So very nice job. You guys are excellent actors. So what we're actually doing is we are completing our stakeholder identification and assessment in a very empathic, very deep way. We are actually talking with stakeholders, and we're finding out what they're excited about with a change, but what they're pretty sure they're going to lose, and what is really scaring them about this change. And when we have this information, as a project team, as an organizational change manager, I love this level of detail because now I know how to communicate. And when I facilitate these sessions, and I've done quite a few of these for the state, when we bring stakeholders in and we do these facilitated sessions, we find more and more stakeholder groups that we forgot. Have you ever been on a project and suddenly, right toward the end, you realize you forgot like a pretty important stakeholder group? And you're all like, oh, how did we forget to include the teachers, right? So we have to make sure that we do this really deep, robust stakeholder assessment so that we can help people identify really what's going on in terms of their gain, their loss, and their fear, so that we as project professionals or as a change professional, we can help those people by thinking through some of those issues. And maybe there's a way to resolve it, and maybe there's not. But even knowing that this is going to be a loss for somebody, and then doing your messaging around, we know you're losing this, but we're hoping to give you some benefit on the backside or on the other side, that's powerful. And when you can acknowledge in your communication and in your training and in your post-go live support and all of your areas that you're working with end users and stakeholders, when we can communicate with them that we actually do understand, that we've heard them, it is very powerful, and they feel like they can trust the project and they can trust that we're doing the best. I think when we ignore or we don't spend the time to get really deep into understanding our stakeholders, then they feel like, yeah, you kind of said you cared about us, but I don't see you putting any thought or effort into it. So this is an important tool. This tool I'm going to make available to you for free. I'll give it to you at the end when we're finishing. I'll give you a web address. You can just go there and download this tool for free. So one of the things that I want to tell you, though, is the rest of the story, right? As Paul Harvey used to say, and now the rest of the story. So the rest of the story is that School B was upset. The neighbors were upset, as we well know. There was a lot of upset people at School B. So School B started preparing. They started doing readiness. And so what they did, they knew this late March. So in April and May, they started doing field trips. They would take all the kindergarten through third grade students, or through second grade students. Well, they're going to third. They would take them on bus field trips to School A. So they knew how to get on a bus, ride a bus, get off the bus, get back on the bus, ride the bus, get off the bus. It sounds simple, but they felt it was really important. So they did bus field trips. They also took them on field trips over to the cafeteria at the new school. And they said, here's the cafeteria, here's how you get your food, and showed them that. They also went on a tour of the new school to see where all the classrooms were. Then they had a big farewell party for their school with bagpipers and singing and weeping parents. And then on the last day of school, they had all the kids who were kindergarten through third grade, because the fourth graders would be in fifth grade the following year, but kindergarten through third grade, they painted their hand with paint, their right hand, and they had them place their right hand on the entry wall of the school and then sign their name. And they said, "It will be all right." And then the goal was that when they came back as fifth graders, they would paint their left hand and they would put it next to their little hand and say, "It's like I never left." So this is what School B did. School A was so happy. They had a pizza party, they had field day, they were done. Whew. Man, thank goodness we won. So the first day of school came that next fall, and School B parents were all together at School A with their little ones, and School A parents got there and they looked around and they said, "Who the heck are these people? I have no idea who they are. Oh, wait. Oh, no. We lost our school." They suddenly realized the first day of school that they didn't have the school they thought they had. All of their big kids were on the bus, which they were happy about, but they were not aware of who these other children were, and they were in their school. And in their classroom, there were parents who seemed to think they belonged there. They're from School B. So basically what happened was the Kubler-Ross change curve, right? Do you know this? This is what happens when somebody hits a change. It should be somewhat familiar to you since I showed you the other change curve. This is where we have a shock of a change and denial, and then we kind of dive down through frustration into depression, and then we come out, we start to experiment with that change, start to make a decision of how we're going to live with it, and finally are able to integrate that into our lives. This is what School A parents started to experience on the first day of school. Now, where were the School B parents? School B parents were up here in the future state, right? School A parents are way over here in the current state, and they didn't know what to do. So not only did we have this displacement of these students and the parents, but now we have two sets of parents, one at the end of a change curve, one at the beginning. And so the two parent groups were not able to communicate or connect that year because one group was going through the curve down in the valley of despair and coming back up, and the other group had already realized the benefit of the change. So think how powerful this is. If you use this for your end users and your stakeholders, and you can deeply understand what it is they're going through, it's a very powerful tool that you can use to help drive change through the organization. The last success strategy that I want to talk about is readiness, because I think readiness is key. I'm an organizational change management expert, and I focus on readiness. I think readiness is where we should be spending a lot of our attention when we're talking about organizational change. We want to make sure that people really are ready for a change. So we need to know a few things. We need to know, are they aware of the change? I mean, I'll tell you, I have seen so many places. I've been on a lot of projects over the years, and every time I'm on a project, it seems like maybe toward the beginning of the project, somebody says, you know, can't we just send an email? How many of you have heard, can't we just send an email? How many of you get an email that says, oh, by the way, we changed something? You get those in your inbox? Do you read them? Sometimes we don't even read those. I'll tell you, many times we think that sending an email is some sort of magic wand that will tell people something is about to happen for them. I'm going to send an email, and that email is going to be so good that they understand everything. I know it says we're going to optimize integration. I know that that's what it says, but they're going to understand it. They'll know what that means to them, right? So sending an email is not enough to make people aware. In fact, do you know how many times somebody has to hear or see a message before they become aware it applies to them? Any guesses? 3. Oh, 3? I have a 3. Do I have a 4? 7. We have a marketing 7. Microsoft did a study 3 years ago. 6 to 20 times. 6 to 20. And that doesn't mean 6 to 20 emails, because they'll just be filed. So 6 to 20 times we have to communicate something to our end users and to our stakeholders, our partakeholders, to our groups, so that they know something's happening and something is changing for them. We also need to identify by looking and talking with them, by doing surveys and focus groups, which is very time consuming, I understand, but it's very necessary. We want to make sure that they are willing to do this change. We want to know, are they willing? Are they willing to trade time and comfort for benefit? If you think about champions, champion athletes, like Billie Jean King, or maybe not Skip, but champion athletes always trade time and comfort for the benefit, right? How many of you belong to a gym or a boot camp and go work out frequently on a regular basis? You know that you are trading time and comfort, especially if it's at 5 in the morning, for benefit, right? This is always a trade. We need to know if our users are there. Are they willing to trade that time and that comfort for the benefit? Now, when they are totally aware of this project, when they totally understand what we're doing, we're building Meyer for them to be able to use, then they can decide and tell us, oh gosh, I am willing to give you this time and my comfort level to get this benefit of being able to log in once, get everything I need, and log out. I am willing to do that. So measuring that willingness is an important piece of readiness as well. And then we have to check and make sure that they are able. Are they able to function in this future state? And that comes down to training, communication, go-live support. You know, I feel that go-live support has somehow become a dirty word on a lot of projects that I see, because people want to do like a help desk go-live support, but I think getting people next to the end users who are using our new tools, our new systems, or our new projects, putting people next to them, at the elbow, if you will, to help them, makes a huge difference. I did a large ERP implementation, or not ERP, I'm sorry, EMR, all my acronyms. See, you know I'm a PMP now. I did a large EMR implementation, and we had at-the-elbow support for physicians. And it was at the elbow, because some of them were tall, and it would be at their elbow. But we would stand next to them and help guide them through the system during patient visits. Now, this was kind of a weird thing when you're not a medical person. But it was really important, and it really made the difference between the physician being able to use the system or not able to use the system. So when they would start to panic in a patient visit, and they had somebody there at the elbow for support, could remind them, there's an order set for that, or you can check here for that, then they felt confident and they remembered they were doctors. And they were able to express their competence instead of kind of flounder around and really struggle with their ability to use the new system. So I think all of these pieces, when we put them together, they really make up the readiness portion. And I love this quote from Billie Jean King that says, "Champions keep playing until they get it right." Because I think that as project management professionals, we do keep playing until we get it right. I mean, things sometimes go off course and we pull it back. Things are sometimes spiraling out or changing very quickly, and we're able to start to kind of rally the troops or gather the group. I think that's a really important role that we play, is to be able to keep playing until we get it right. So what I'd like for you to do right now is I'm going to have you do a speed interview. This means you're going to stand up and find 2 other people. So 3-person groups, 3 people. You're going to have 45 seconds to answer this question. Now remember, if you talk for 30 seconds, that means the other 2 people only have 7.5 seconds each. So you're going to have to be brief and concise. But I'm going to have you stand up right now. I know, stand up right now on a Friday evening. You can do it. And I want you to find 2 other people, 3-person group. 3 people. And you're going to answer this question. I'm going to give you 45 seconds, and we'll start. Okay, stop right there. And switch. Find 2 new people. 2 new people. Yes, 2 new people. You can do it. Find 2 new people. 2 new people. So another 3-person group. You're going to answer this question. What one change? What one change? This is a fun question. You guys are going to like this one. You're going to love this question. What one change went way better than you expected it to? What one change went way better than you expected it to? All right? Go. Okay. All right. Switch one more time. One more time. 2 new people. One more time. 2 more people. Switch one more time. Are you switched? Are you ready? 3rd question. What one idea from this presentation or any of the other presentations that you saw today, what one idea would you like to try out in your own personal or organizational change? Ready? Go. Real quickly, tell me 3 ideas that you came up with in your groups. 1 idea. Yes? Storytelling. Excellent. Another idea.
The tool you showed us.
The tool I showed you. Yes, what else? 1 more. What's that? Oh, talking in normal people terms. Excellent. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. That's awesome. Great. So I will give you the free assessment. You just go to this website, which is april-newsletter.com/stakeholder, and you can get the assessment and use it as you wish. I find it to be just an excellent tool, and when you facilitate it in a session with real stakeholders and other folks, it's just a phenomenal tool. So I just wanted to conclude our discussion today about talking about, I'll leave this up because I know people are trying to take pictures of it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of that big picture in terms of project management and who you are and what we do. You know, I spoke with another Big Ten university that had a hospital attached with the university. And I had a gentleman in my class from one of my customer service trainings, and he was sort of down. He said, you know, I have to tell you this story. I'm disappointed in my career. And I thought, wow, that's kind of rough. You know, this was at the beginning of our customer service class. He was a lifetime purchasing agent. He had a CPA, thought he might be like a CPA someday, but he had been working for the university for 25 years. And he said, you know, I'm just disappointed. I'm a paper pusher. I don't do anything but push paper. Well, he had a pretty successful personal life, and he had 2 grown sons. And his older son got married, and he and his wife were pregnant for Pat's first grandbaby. And he was very excited about this during this customer service training. And he came in after about 8 weeks, and he said, I have to tell you this story that happened to me. He said that my daughter-in-law had the baby 8 weeks early. And so she was in the NICU, in the neonatal intensive care unit at the University Hospital. He said, and I was so crushed. She was in the incubator. She was all hooked up to things. And he said, so my wife and I and my son and daughter-in-law, we decided that we would take shifts and we would sit with her 24 hours a day so she would never be alone. So he said, I was on the 2nd day of my shifts, and I had the overnight shift. I was starting at 10 and I was going to go until 7 in the morning, and then he was going to work. He said, I was sitting watching her in her little incubator, and I was in those super hard plastic like glider chairs, and I'm just kind of dozing. And I'm looking at the baby, and she's all hooked up. And I suddenly realized that I recognize the logos on all of the equipment. And I realized that I put together those purchase orders. I helped put together the purchase orders for all of the equipment that was hooked up to her. And I thought that I was a paper pusher. But I am a lifesaver. And I am changed. And when he told me that story, oh, well, then he said, I should have bought better chairs. It's true. But when he told me this story, it really struck me that I am not just doing what I'm doing, I am up to something much bigger in the world as well. And when you think about the important projects that you work on and the initiatives that you undertake, you know that even though we get so caught up in the day-to-day, we get kind of stuck in the middle of all of this vortex of paper and deliverables and milestones and planning, but we are actually doing something really big. And so I want to leave you with that, because as project management professionals, you are leading successful change all the time. And in everything you do, you are actually creating the future for others. So keep that top of mind as you think about how to lead successful change in your organization and how to help lead successful change for people in your organization as well. Thank you.